I'll start the meeting. So if everybody could just, if it's okay, if everybody could just mute. So there isn't anything. I'll just explain the way, the purpose of this meeting, who I am, the purpose of this meeting, and how the meeting is going to be run. And then we could get people joining in. So if everybody could just put their mic on mute. So I just want to say thank you everyone for coming. I know it's short notice, but it's quite good attendance. It just shows how much of an issue this issue is. I'm Councillor Puru, so I'm a councillor for Miah. Before I say a bit about myself and go further, I did receive a lot of apologies from people. There are a lot of people whose family members are not well, so they're either supporting part of the support bubble or just not in the right frame of mind. So I did get a lot of apologies on that. So it just shows the massive crisis we're in with regards to the pandemic. Also, a lot of people just don't have the data. So I did get text messages, etc., from people saying they just don't have, either they're not familiar with the Zoom platform, or they just don't have the data, access to the internet to access it. So it just shows also the issue of internet poverty in the area. So I'm Councillor Puru. I'm the Labour councillor for Miah. My background is so I'm not a professional politician or anything like that. I did my initial career path was law. I did study at King's College London, a law school where I specialised in human rights and judicial review, and that was my specialism. After that, I went into the civil service. Then I left the civil service, did a bit in private industry for about 2 decades. Sorry, a decade and a bit in private industry here and abroad, and then I went back into the civil service. And at the moment, I work in the criminal justice system in the law courts. So that's what my day job is. The reason why we're having this meeting, and I'm interested as a councillor, is just looking at this issue early on. For me, regardless of the merits of low traffic neighborhoods, I think the issue is that there seems to be a violation of people's human and civil rights, the way this consultation has been carried out. And I did sort of like raise those concerns as a councillor in March last year, actually, in the council chamber about these concerns. And then in August, I did a video reinforcing those concerns of civil liberties and human rights, especially in terms of equality impact assessments. And it seems all my predictions have come true, in the sense that the way, especially the contractor PCL Consult has been carrying out these consultations, seems to be violating residents' civil rights and human rights that are protected by law. And it seems to be that PCL Consult, prima facie, on the face of it, have been acting illegally, and also indirectly Tower Hamlets Council as well, in the way these schemes are being implemented, in the way that the consultation are being implemented. So I just want to give a background. People's human rights are protected by law through basically you've got two sort of like parliamentary acts. One is the Human Rights Act 1998, which incorporated the European Convention of Human Rights into English law.
Puru, can you turn your speaker up or something? You're very, very faint. Sorry.
Okay, so can you hear me now? Is that much better?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So thanks for that. People's rights are protected by 2 acts of parliament. One is the Human Rights Act 1998, and the other one is something called the Equalities Act 2010, which sort of like incorporated all the equalities legislation in terms of gender, in terms of disability, in terms of race legislation, and added new protections as well for what they call protective characteristics. So those are the two sort of like pieces of law that guarantees everyone's human rights and civil liberties. And as Tower Hamlets Council, as a public body, has a statutory duty to sort of uphold people's rights and not ensure that they're not violated. And what we do have is a petition in the council, which has gathered over 2,500 signatures at the moment. I've got someone with London Borough of Tower Hamlets, but I'll admit them, probably Mayor John Biggs. I don't know. Sorry, just one moment. Let me just admit this person. So what it is we've got petition that's gone to full council, where we had over 2,500 residents who've basically made a serious allegation that the way the consultation has been run by PCL Consult and Tower Hamlets has basically been discriminatory and therefore illegal. It's discriminated against people on the basis of disability, on the basis of gender, and also something called socio-economic inequalities as well. So on the basis of people's income, the way they've carried out the consultation. So it's quite a serious allegation. So what it is I just want to take submissions from tonight. I just want to hear your views as residents. And then I will publish a report by the weekend, just summarizing it and looking into 4 questions, basically, in terms of the way the consultation has been run by PCL Consult. Has there been direct discrimination? And direct discrimination could be perceived discrimination. So perceived discrimination is if PCL Consult, for example, there's a serious allegation that PCL Consult didn't deliver leaflets on council estates in the Bow area, but they delivered those leaflets into terraced houses. So that's a perceived discrimination. If that is true, that they thought that those people occupying are from a certain background, we're not going to deliver the leaflets, we'll deliver the leaflets there. The other one is indirect discrimination. That's the other question I'm going to look into, whether there's been indirect discrimination. That is when you apply a rule or a practice knowing full well that certain demographics of protective character, certain demographics will be disadvantaged by that. So a good example is carrying all consultations online, knowing full well that in Tower Hamlets, we have a massive issue of access to the internet. We have massive issues in terms of people accessing English as a first language. So that's a question of indirect discrimination, and I'll be looking into whether there's been indirect discrimination. The other aspect the other 2 questions is whether there's been a breach of contract by PCL Consult, because they are a contractor for Tower Hamlets, whether there's been a breach of contract by them. One of the implied terms of a contract is you have to act within the law. Whether PCL Consult had breached their contract with Tower Hamlets, whether they actually fulfilled their contract of basically consulting all the residents and that are affected by these schemes. And the 4th question is whether Tower Hamlets Council itself has acted illegally themselves. So Tower Hamlets Council has a duty to abide by the law, whether they knowingly broke the law in the way these consultations have been run. No, so Tower Hamlets Council cannot knowingly or unknowingly discriminate against its residents. And so that is the question. That's the 4th question that I'll be looking into the report. So the purpose of the meeting is to actually hear your views as to how the consultation has been run and how you feel you've been aggrieved, whether you feel that you've been discriminated against or whether you feel your neighbors have been discriminated against. So the housekeeping rule of this meeting is that if you go